This is how my 12-team playoff would go if it started right now after week 11. Just as a reminder before I get into this is based on only the current rules. The top 4 seeds you see right here are all conference champions. My conference champions right now are just my highest ranked team, so even though I have Michigan at number 3, they slide to number 5 because they're not a conference champion. Additionally, Tulane is my highest group of 5 ranked team, so they are in at the number 12 spot because that's based on the current rules. And one more thing, all these first round games are played at the higher seeds home. Due to that, let's get into my first round results. I think in the first round, Alabama beats Louisville and Michigan beats Tulane, and I don't think either of those games are going to be particularly close. Moving over to the right side, I would pick Oregon with the spread against Penn State. I think they would win that game by a few scores, and I would also pick Texas over Oregon State. But with 4 of the last 5 games coming down to 1 score for Texas, I do think that Texas-Oregon State game would be very close. Let's move on to the second round. Now, these games would all be played in New York 6 Bowls. I went back and forth so much on who would win this SEC championship rematch, but ultimately, I do think Georgia would beat Alabama. And whether it's a 12-team playoff or the 4-team playoff this year, if this matchup happens, I'm taking Michigan in a blowout win against Florida State. Setting record aside, I think you can make an argument that Oregon looks like the number 1 team in the country, and I like them in a rematch against Washington. And while the defense is carrying Ohio State, I still like Ohio State over Texas in a close one. Let's move on to the semifinals for the last 2 New York 6 Bowl games in the semifinal. I think both these games would be very close, but I do like Georgia over Michigan and Oregon over Ohio State. I think Oregon has a more complete team than Ohio State does, and I think Georgia would just be able to outpace Michigan in their own game. And if you look at this championship, this is exactly why Oregon hired Dan Lanning 2 seasons ago. After being a rock star defense coordinator for Georgia, Oregon hired Dan Lanning to replicate Georgia, and well, they basically have done it. But I do like Georgia to get the three-peat here and beat the Ducks in the championship. This makes me incredibly excited as we will be getting this in the 2024 season, so if you want to see how this is going to look in the coming weeks as we get closer to the actual 4-team playoff, make sure you hit the follow button so you guys don't miss to see what it would be like.